You think you know Uganda? Let me guess, gorillas, safaris, maybe some charity documentaries from the 90s? Well, buckle up, because I am about to blow your mind with what is actually happening in this East African nation right now. While everyone's fighting over overpriced studio apartments in Brooklyn for $3,000 a month, there are people living like absolute kings in Uganda for less than $600. And that is not even the crazy part. The crazy part is what happens when twins are born here. I'm talking about celebrations that would make a Las Vegas wedding planner jealous. Rituals that involve entire villages. And traditions so wild that most tourists can't believe they're real. But we'll get to that. First, let me paint you a different picture of Uganda. Forget everything you think you know. This isn't some dusty, remote outpost where you need a machete to get around. We're talking about a country where you can get high-speed internet, faster than most American suburbs, where the nightlife in Kampala doesn't stop until 6 a.m., and where the local street food is so good that food bloggers are literally relocating here just to eat. I spent 6 months researching this place, and what I found changed everything I thought I knew about African countries. Uganda has become the secret playground for digital nomads who are tired of overpriced Thai islands and crowded Mexican beach towns. The cost of living is so low that your entire monthly budget in New York wouldn't even cover a week here, yet somehow the quality of life can be higher. But here's what really got me hooked on this story. Uganda has some of the most fascinating cultural traditions on the planet. And I'm not talking about tourist-friendly drum circles. I'm talking about genuine, ancient customs that are still practiced today. When twins are born in certain tribes, the entire community throws a celebration that can last for weeks. The father gets a special title, the mother becomes essentially royalty in the village, and the ceremonies involve music, dancing, and rituals that date back centuries. And that's just the beginning. Wait until you hear about the dating culture, the marriage customs that would shock most Westerners, or the fact that this country produces some of the world's best coffee, but most locals have never even tasted what they are exporting. Then there's the food situation. Everyone talks about Thai street food or Mexican tacos, but nobody mentions the Ugandan Rolex. No, not the watch. It is a street food that has become so popular that there are actual Rolex competitions now. Imagine an omelet wrapped in fresh chapati with vegetables and spices, cooked right in front of you for less than $1. Food trucks in LA are charging $12 for worse versions of this. The transportation system alone is worth the price of admission. They have these motorcycle taxis called boda bodas that are basically the most efficient urban transport system I've ever seen. Forget Uber surge pricing. For 50 cents, you can get across the entire city faster than a cab in Manhattan during rush hour. And the people? This might sound like travel blogger nonsense, but Ugandans are genuinely some of the friendliest people you'll meet. Not the fake friendly that comes with expecting a tip, but actual hospitality that makes you feel guilty for being suspicious about it. So while everyone's complaining about rent prices and inflation back home, there's this entire country where your dollar stretches so far it feels like you're cheating. A furnished one-bedroom apartment in a nice area of Kampala costs what most people spend on coffee in a month back in the States. Ready to see what $600 actually gets you in Uganda? And more importantly, are you prepared to learn about traditions so fascinating that they'll change how you think about celebrations forever? Landing in Entebbe, you immediately realize that whatever mental picture you had of Uganda was probably wrong. The airport is modern, efficient, and cleaner than half the terminals I've been through in Europe. But step outside, and that's when Uganda hits you with its first surprise. It's green. Not just green, but impossibly, ridiculously green everywhere you look. This isn't the dry, dusty Africa from old movies. Uganda sits right on the equator, which means it gets rain year-round and stays lush constantly. The country is roughly the size of Oregon, but packed with more geographical diversity than most continents. You've got Lake Victoria in the south, and yes, it's massive, basically an inland sea that stretches beyond the horizon. To the west, you have the dramatic Rwenzori Mountains, also known as the Mountains of the Moon, where you can actually see snow on peaks just miles from tropical forests. The Nile River starts here, flowing north through the entire country. creating this incredible network of waterways, wetlands, and some of the most spectacular waterfalls you'll ever see. But what really strikes you is how everything feels alive. The air is thick with humidity and the sounds of birds, insects, and life happening everywhere around you. Then you get to Kampala, and that's where things get interesting. The capital city is built on 7 hills, and it sprawls in every direction with absolutely no apparent plan. It's organized chaos at its finest, modern office buildings next to traditional markets, luxury hotels across from street vendors selling everything imaginable. The city has about 1.5 million people officially, but it feels like twice that during the day as everyone commutes in from surrounding areas. The roads in Kampala are an adventure in themselves. There's no real grid system. Streets curve and wind around hills, split off into smaller roads without warning, and sometimes just end abruptly. GPS gets confused here regularly, but somehow everyone navigates it perfectly, including the thousands of boda drivers who weave through traffic with imprecision. That would make Formula One drivers nervous. What surprises most visitors is how modern parts of the city are. There are shopping malls with international brands, coffee shops with Wi-Fi faster than what you get in rural America, and restaurants serving everything from sushi to Italian food, alongside traditional Ugandan cuisine. The contrast is wild. You can be in a gleaming bank building with marble floors and air conditioning, then walk to blocks and find yourself in a traditional market where people are selling live chickens and fresh produce. The climate here is perfect for anyone tired of dealing with seasons. Because it's on the equator, temperatures stay consistent year-round, usually between 70 to 80 F during the day, dropping to the mid-60s at night. There's no winter, no summer, just wet seasons and dry seasons. And even the wet seasons aren't terrible. It usually rains hard for an hour or two in the afternoon, then clears up completely. But here's what really gets you about Uganda's geography. It's incredibly fertile. Everything grows here. Bananas, coffee, tea, vegetables, fruits you've never heard of. Farmers can grow multiple crops per year because there's no frost, no long dry periods, just consistent growing conditions. This is why food is so cheap and fresh. It's literally growing everywhere. The country is also landlocked, surrounded by Kenya, Tanzania, Rwanda, Democratic Republic of Congo, and South Sudan. This positioning makes it a natural hub for East Africa, which explains why Kampala has become such a regional center for business, and why so many international organizations have offices here. Lake Victoria dominates the southern part of the country, and it is not just big, it is the second largest freshwater lake in the world by surface area. The lake creates its own weather patterns, provides fish for much of East Africa, and gives Uganda access to water transport routes that connect to the Indian Ocean through Tanzania. From the bustling streets of Kampala to the misty mountains in the west, to the vast savanna in the north, Uganda packs more geographical diversity into its borders than seems physically possible. And that diversity sets the stage for everything else, the cultures, the foods, the traditions, and the lifestyle that makes this country so fascinating. Waking up in Uganda feels different from day one. The sounds are incredible. Birds you've never heard before. The distant hum of bodas starting their routes, vendors setting up their stalls, and somewhere in the distance, probably some traditional music playing from a radio. The sun rises fast here because of the equator location, going from darkness to full daylight in about 20 minutes. Most Ugandans start their day early, around 6 a.m. Not because they have to, but because that's when the country comes alive. The streets fill up with people heading to work, school, or the markets. But here's what's fascinating about Ugandan daily life. It's incredibly social. Everything happens in groups, or at least with lots of interaction with neighbors, vendors, and strangers. Take the morning routine. Instead of grabbing coffee from a chain store, people stop at small local cafes or buy tea from street vendors who know their names and their usual order. Breakfast might be a Rolex from a roadside stand, porridge made fresh, or Mandazi East African donuts with milk tea. The vendor probably knows where you live, what you do for work, and how your family is doing. The family structure here is strong in ways that might surprise Americans. Extended families often live close together, and it's common for 3 generations to share meals regularly. Children are raised by the entire community. Neighbors look out for each other's kids. And if a child misbehaves somewhere, any adult can correct them and the parents will thank them for it. Work culture is relationship-based. Business meetings start with extensive greetings and checking in about family, health, and life in general. Rushing straight to business is considered rude. People shake hands with everyone when they arrive somewhere and again when they leave. The phrase, "How are you?" is actually a real question that expects a real answer, not just "fine, thanks." Transportation is where daily life gets really interesting. The boda system is incredible. Imagine having access to a motorcycle taxi. That can get you anywhere in the city for under $1, weaving through traffic that would trap cars for hours. These drivers know every shortcut, every back street, and can navigate through markets, dirt paths, and narrow alleys that GPS has never heard of. Most people have a regular boda driver who becomes almost like a friend, checking in on them and their family. Shopping happens at markets, not supermarkets. The main markets in Kampala are sensory overload in the best way: colors, smells, sounds, and energy that makes grocery stores back home feel dead by comparison. Vendors sell everything from fresh produce to clothes to household items to live animals. Bargaining is expected, and its social vendors want to chat while you negotiate, ask about your day, maybe offer you some fruit to try. Community life centers around shared spaces. Every neighborhood has local bars or restaurants where people gather in the evenings. These aren't fancy places: plastic chairs, simple food, cold beer or soda, and lots of conversation. People play cards, watch soccer matches, discuss local politics, and generally catch up on neighborhood news. Religion plays a significant role in daily life. Uganda is primarily Christian, with both Protestant and Catholic communities, plus a growing Muslim population. Sunday church services are major social events that can last several hours and include elaborate music, dancing, and community announcements. Even non-religious people often attend for the social aspect. The pace of life is different here. Things happen when they happen, not necessarily when scheduled. African time means showing up 30 minutes to an hour after the stated time is completely normal. Rushing is seen as slightly rude. If you're always in a hurry, it suggests you don't have time for people, which is concerning to most Ugandans. Evening routines often involve socializing. After work, people might stop at a local bar for a beer and conversation, visit family members, or gather at someone's home to share dinner. Cooking is often communal. Women might prepare large meals together while catching up on gossip and news. The hospitality here is genuine. Visitors are offered food and drinks immediately upon arrival at someone's home. Refusing is considered impolite, even if you're not hungry. Sharing meals is a sign of friendship and respect. If you're walking with a Ugandan and they stop to buy food, they'll automatically buy enough for both of you. Splitting the cost isn't even discussed. This community-focused lifestyle creates a support system that many Western countries have lost. People look out for each other, share resources when needed, and celebrate together regularly. It's a reminder of what daily life can look like when community comes before individual convenience. Let's talk about Ugandan food, because this is where things get seriously underrated. Everyone knows about Italian pasta, Thai curries, or Mexican tacos, but Ugandan cuisine is flying completely under the radar despite being absolutely incredible. The foundation of most meals is matoke, steamed green bananas that are savory, not sweet. Before you wrinkle your nose, understand that matoke is to Uganda what rice is to Asia. It's perfectly seasoned, usually cooked with onions, tomatoes, and spices. And it soaks up flavors better than any carb you've tried. But the real star of Ugandan street food is the Rolex, and no, I'm not kidding about the name. Some genius took rolled eggs and created the most perfect street food ever invented. Fresh chapati gets spread with an omelet that's cooked right on top of it, then loaded with tomatoes, onions, cabbage, and whatever other vegetables you want. The whole thing gets rolled up into a portable, delicious meal that costs less than a candy bar back home. Food trucks in major American cities are now charging $12 for inferior versions of what you can get here for 75 cents. The chapati itself is an art form here. Vendors roll the dough fresh throughout the day, cooking each one on a flat griddle until it's crispy on the outside but still soft inside. The technique for making the perfect Rolex: spreading the egg mixture evenly, timing the vegetables, rolling it without tearing, requires genuine skill. Some vendors have lines of customers waiting specifically for their Rolexes, because word gets around about who makes the best ones. Traditional Ugandan meals are usually built around a starch matoke, rice, or posho, which is similar to polenta served with some kind of sauce or stew. Groundnut sauce is popular. It's made from peanuts, but tastes nothing like peanut butter, more like a rich, nutty gravy. Bean stews are common, often cooked with meat or dried fish. The flavors are complex, but not typically spicy hot. Ugandans use herbs and spices for flavor rather than heat. Fresh fruit here is ridiculous. Mangoes so sweet and juicy they drip down your arms. Pineapples that are perfectly ripe and cost about 30 cents each. Passion fruits, jackfruit, avocados the size of footballs. Bananas in varieties you didn't know existed. Some for cooking, some for eating fresh, some incredibly sweet. Most of this fruit is picked ripe because it doesn't need to travel far, so the flavors are intense compared to imported fruit elsewhere. Now, coffee. Uganda produces some of the world's best coffee beans. But here's the ironic part. Most Ugandans drink tea. The coffee industry is largely for export, shipping high-quality beans to Europe and America while locals prefer milk tea with lots of sugar. However, there's a growing coffee culture in Kampala, with local cafes starting to serve Ugandan-grown coffee to locals and expats, who are slowly converting tea drinkers. The tea culture here is serious. It is not just Earl Grey in a bag. We're talking about fresh milk tea, prepared with loose black tea leaves, whole milk, and enough sugar to power a small village. Vendors make it fresh throughout the day in huge pots, serving it in small plastic cups. It's hot, sweet, energizing, and costs about 15 cents per cup. Many people drink several cups throughout the day, and it's always a social activity. You don't just grab tea and go. You stand around and chat while drinking it. When it comes to nightlife drinks, waragi is the national spirit. It's a gin-like alcohol made from bananas, cassava, or grains, and it packs a punch. The commercial version by Uganda breweries comes in flavors like coconut and pineapple. But traditional waragi made in villages can be strong enough to strip pain. It's cheap, widely available, and central to most celebrations and social gatherings. Beer culture is huge here. Uganda produces several local brands like Bell Lager and Nile Special, and beer is often cheaper than soda. It's common for people to have a beer or two after work while socializing, and sharing drinks is a sign of friendship. Refusing a drink when offered can be seen as unfriendly unless you explain you don't drink alcohol. Food preparation and eating is communal. Families typically eat together from shared dishes, using their hands or simple utensils. Street food is prepared fresh constantly throughout the day. Vendors do pre-make things and let them sit. Everything is cooked to order, which means it's always hot and fresh but might take a few minutes. The combination of incredible ingredients, skilled preparation, and ridiculously low prices makes Uganda a food lover as paradise that most of the world hasn't discovered yet. You can eat restaurant-quality meals for $2 to $3, street food for under $1, and fresh fruit for pocket change, all while experiencing flavors that will ruin you for imported versions of the same foods elsewhere. Dating in Uganda operates on completely different rules than Western countries, and understanding these cultural differences is crucial whether you're visiting or planning to stay longer. The social dynamics around relationships, marriage, and gender roles create a complex system that can be surprising for outsiders, but makes perfect sense within the cultural context. First, let's address beauty standards and social expectations. Ugandan women take pride in their appearance, but the standards are different from Western ideals. Natural hair is celebrated, and there's less pressure around body size, curves are appreciated, and being too thin is often seen as a sign of poor health rather than attractiveness. Fashion is important. with colorful traditional fabrics mixed with modern clothing creating unique personal styles. Gender roles here are more traditional than what most Western visitors expect. Men are typically expected to be providers and family leaders, while women often manage households and child rearing. However, this is changing rapidly, especially in urban areas where women are increasingly pursuing careers and education. In Kampala, you'll find women running businesses, working in professional jobs, and making independent life decisions, but family expectations still play a significant role. The dating process itself is fascinating. Casual dating like in Western countries exists in urban areas, but it's not the norm. Most relationships are seen as leading toward marriage, and families are involved from early stages. When a man is interested in a woman, he's expected to show respect for her family and demonstrate his ability to provide for her. This doesn't necessarily mean being wealthy, but showing stability and good character. Marriage customs vary by tribe, but they're generally elaborate affairs involving extended families. The Kwanjula ceremony among the Baganda people is particularly impressive. It is basically a formal introduction where the man's family visits the woman's family to ask for permission to marry. The woman's family tests the man's knowledge of their culture, and there's negotiation around bride price, which isn't buying a wife, but rather showing respect and appreciation for how the family raised her. What surprises many foreign men is how direct and confident Ugandan women can be. Despite traditional gender roles, women here don't play games or use manipulation in relationships. If they're interested, they'll let you know. If they're not, they'll be clear about that too. This directness extends to expectations. If you're dating a Ugandan woman, she'll probably want to know your intentions fairly quickly. For foreign men dating locally, there are some important cultural considerations. Ugandan families are typically very protective of their daughters, and foreign boyfriends will be scrutinized carefully. You need to show genuine respect for local customs, learn some basic Luganda phrases, and demonstrate that you understand the seriousness of relationships here. Casual hookups exist, but aren't culturally accepted in most families. The social scene in Kampala is where modern and traditional Uganda collide in interesting ways. The nightlife is surprisingly vibrant, with clubs that stay open until 6 a.m. playing everything from Afrobeats to international music. Popular spots like Club Ambience, Cayenne, and the Bourbon attract mixed crowds of locals and expats. However, going to clubs alone as a foreign man might give the wrong impression. It is better to go with local friends who can introduce you properly. Daytime social activities are more family-oriented. Coffee dates are popular in Kampala's growing cafe scene, but they're usually chaperoned or at least known to family members. Group activities like going to Lake Victoria for swimming and barbecues are common ways to get to know someone within a social context. The expat dating scene has its own dynamics. Foreign women often find dating in Uganda challenging because local men might assume they're wealthy or temporary. Foreign men have more options, but need to navigate the cultural expectations carefully. Many successful relationships involve taking time to understand each other's cultural backgrounds, rather than trying to impose Western dating norms. Social media plays a big role in modern Ugandan dating. Facebook and WhatsApp are primary communication tools, and Instagram is growing. However, public displays of relationship status are handled carefully because families monitor social media, and inappropriate posts can cause problems with conservative relatives. What's refreshing about social life here is how community-oriented it is. People regularly gather at local bars and restaurants for conversation, not just drinking. These social spaces are where relationships develop naturally, through mutual friends, shared activities, and community events rather than dating apps or clubs. For LGBTQ individuals, Uganda presents significant challenges. Homosexuality is illegal, and social acceptance is extremely limited. The few LGBTQ communities that exist operate very discreetly, and foreign visitors should be aware that public displays of same-sex affection can lead to serious legal and social problems. The key to successful social integration in Uganda is understanding that relationships here are rarely just between two people, they involve families, communities, and cultural expectations. This might seem restrictive to individualistic cultures, but it also creates strong support systems and lasting relationships. Whether you're looking for friendship, dating, or marriage, success in Uganda's social scene requires patience, cultural sensitivity, and genuine respect for local customs. The reward is access to one of the warmest, most welcoming communities you'll find anywhere, where relationships are built on mutual respect, family values, and shared community life rather than just individual attraction. Now we get to the stuff that will absolutely blow your mind. Uganda's cultural traditions are so unique and fascinating that most visitors spend months here before they even scratch the surface. These aren't tourist performances, these are real, living traditions that have been practiced for centuries and continue today alongside modern life. Let's start with the twin celebrations, because this tradition is so elaborate it makes Western baby showers look like sad little gatherings. In Uganda culture, having twins is considered one of the highest blessings possible. When twins are born, the entire community mobilizes for celebrations that can last weeks. The father automatically gets the title Salongo, and the mother becomes Nalongo. These are prestigious titles that change their social status permanently. The twins themselves get special names based on their birth order. The older twin is called Waswa if male or Babiri if female. The younger twin is Kato male or Nakato female. But here's where it gets really interesting. These twins are believed to have special spiritual powers. They're considered blessings to the entire community, not just the family. Special ceremonies called Okuzina Abalongo are performed, involving traditional music, dancing, and rituals that honor the twins' arrival. The celebration process is incredible. Special foods are prepared, including dishes that are only made for twin celebrations. Traditional drums announce the news across the village. Women perform specific dances that tell the story of the twins' spiritual significance. The community brings gifts, not just for the babies, but for the entire extended family. It's like Christmas, New Year's, and a wedding all rolled into one celebration. Music in Uganda is way more complex than most outsiders realize. Every tribe has distinct musical traditions with specific instruments, rhythms, and purposes. The Baganda people use drums called ingoma that can communicate messages across long distances. Different drum patterns announce different types of news, births, deaths, celebrations, warnings. It's essentially a musical communication system that predates modern technology by centuries. Traditional dances are incredible to watch. The Kiganda dance involves elaborate costumes and tells stories through movement. Dancers train for years to perfect the intricate steps and symbolic gestures. Each movement has meaning. Certain hand positions represent different concepts. Specific steps tell parts of historical stories. During festivals, these performances can last for hours, with different groups taking turns to tell their part of the cultural narrative. But wait, there's more weird and wonderful stuff. Some Ugandan tribes have initiation ceremonies that would make reality TV producers jealous. Among certain groups, young men undergo tests of courage, wisdom, and community knowledge before being considered adults. These aren't just symbolic, they involve real challenges, traditional knowledge tests, and community service requirements. Marriage traditions get really elaborate depending on the tribe. In some cultures, the groom's family must demonstrate their worthiness through various tests and ceremonies before the bride's family agrees to the marriage. This can include solving riddles, demonstrating cultural knowledge, or performing specific tasks that prove the man can provide for and protect his future wife. The modern music scene in Uganda is exploding right now. Ugandan musicians are blending traditional sounds with Afrobeats, creating unique styles that are gaining international attention. The Nightlife Festival has become one of Africa's premier music events, attracting artists and fans from around the world to experience Uganda's music scene firsthand. Coffee ceremonies are another tradition that surprises visitors. Despite being a major coffee-producing country, traditional coffee preparation is ceremonial and social. Green coffee beans are roasted fresh, ground by hand, and brewed in a specific process while people gather to chat and catch up. It's less about the caffeine and more about the community gathering. Harvest festivals vary by region, but are universally impressive. When crops are ready, whether it's coffee, bananas, or other staples, entire communities celebrate together. These festivals combine Thanksgiving for good harvest with music, dancing, traditional foods, and community bonding. They're authentic cultural events where visitors can experience genuine Ugandan traditions. Religious festivals blend Christianity with traditional beliefs in fascinating ways. Christmas and Easter celebrations include traditional music and dances alongside Christian services. Many churches incorporate local languages, traditional instruments, and cultural elements into their worship, creating uniquely Ugandan expressions of faith. The Buganda Kingdom still maintains traditional ceremonies for their cultural leaders. The Kabaka King of Buganda participates in annual ceremonies that have been performed for centuries. These aren't just historical reenactments, they're living traditions that maintain cultural identity and community connections. Traditional healing practices continue alongside modern medicine. Healers use combinations of herbs, ceremonies, and spiritual practices to treat various ailments while not replacing medical care. These traditions remain important parts of community health and cultural identity. What makes all these traditions special is that they are not performed for tourists. They are genuine cultural practices that communities maintain for themselves. Visitors who are respectful and genuinely interested can sometimes be invited to observe or even participate, but the traditions continue whether outsiders are present or not. The storytelling traditions here are incredible. Elders pass down historical accounts, moral lessons, and cultural knowledge through elaborate stories told during community gatherings. These oral histories preserve information about family lineages, tribal migrations, historical events, and cultural values across generations. During major festivals like Independence Day or cultural celebration days, all these traditions come together in massive community celebrations. Multiple tribes showcase their unique music, dances, foods, and customs in events that can attract thousands of participants and observers. The combination of ancient traditions with modern life creates a cultural richness that is rare in today's world. Young Ugandans learn traditional dances while listening to international music on their phones. Families maintain centuries-old ceremonies while embracing modern technology and education. It's a perfect example of how cultures can preserve their unique identities while adapting to contemporary life. Here's where Uganda becomes absolutely ridiculous in the best way possible. That $600 budget I mentioned at the beginning, let me break down exactly what that gets you, and prepare to feel either extremely excited about moving here or deeply depressed about rent prices back home. Let's start with housing, because this is where your mind gets blown first. A decent one-bedroom apartment in a nice area of Kampala, furnished with reliable electricity, running water, and internet, runs about $300 to $400 per month. We're talking about places with modern amenities, security, and locations where you'd actually want to live. For comparison, that's less than most people back home spend on their car payment. But if you want to live like royalty, $600 to $800 per month gets you a 2 or 3 bedroom place with a garden, parking, 24-hour security, and possibly a swimming pool. These aren't slums or dangerous areas. These are neighborhoods where diplomats and business executives live. The quality difference between a $300 apartment and a $600 apartment is massive. So spending a bit more on housing gives you disproportionate lifestyle improvements. Food costs are where things get absolutely insane. A full meal at a decent local restaurant costs $2 to $3. Street food runs 50 cents to $1. If you're cooking at home, your monthly grocery bill might be $50 to $75 for one person eating well. Fresh vegetables, fruits, meat, and staples are incredibly cheap because they're produced locally. You can literally eat restaurant meals every day for less than most people spend on groceries at home. Transportation is practically free. Boda rides across town cost 50 cents to $1. Shared taxis for longer distances might be $2 to $3. If you want your own motorcycle for getting around, you can rent one for about $100 per month or buy a decent used one for $1,000 to $1,500. Many expats find they spend less than $30 per month on transportation. Utilities are reasonable but variable. Electricity runs about $30 to $50 per month for normal usage, though it can spike if you're running air conditioning constantly. Water is usually under $10 per month. Internet is surprisingly good. Fiber internet costs about $25 to $40 per month for speeds that are often faster than what you get in rural America. Healthcare is the wild card. Public healthcare is very cheap, but quality varies significantly. Private healthcare is affordable by international standards, but expensive locally. Entertainment and social life cost almost nothing. So let's add this up for our $600 budget. $350 for housing, $75 for food, $30 for transportation, $1.50 for utilities and internet, $1.50 for healthcare and miscellaneous, $45 for entertainment and social activities. That leaves you living comfortably with money left over for savings or unexpected expenses. But here's what that lifestyle actually looks like day to day. You wake up in a furnished apartment with reliable Wi-Fi. You grab a fresh Rolex for breakfast 75 cents and take a boda to a coffee shop with better internet than most American suburbs, $1 ride to Dollar's Coffee. You can work remotely all day, then meet friends for dinner and drinks $8 total before taking another boda home $1. Compare this to similar lifestyles elsewhere. In Thailand, popular with digital nomads, you need $800 to $1,200 for comparable living standards. In Mexico, $700 to $1,000. In Eastern Europe, $600 to $900. Uganda offers similar or better quality of life for significantly less money. The key is understanding where to spend and where to save. Splurging on housing makes a huge difference in comfort and security. Eating local food instead of Western food saves massive amounts. Using local transportation instead of taxis keeps costs down. Shopping at markets instead of supermarkets cuts grocery bills in half. For digital nomads specifically, Uganda is incredible value. Co-working spaces cost $50 to $80 per month for unlimited access. Coffee shops with strong Wi-Fi and good atmospheres are everywhere in Kampala. The time zone works well for European clients and reasonably well for American East Coast clients. The $600 budget assumes living modestly but comfortably if you want to live more luxuriously. $800 to $1,000 per month gets you a lifestyle that would cost $3,000 to $4,000 in major American cities. We're talking about nice apartments, eating at good restaurants regularly, having a motorcycle or car, traveling within East Africa, and saving money. Some expats live on even less. Couples can share housing costs and live very comfortably on $800 to $1,000 combined. Families with children need more, mainly for private school fees and larger housing, but can still live well on budgets that would be impossible in Western countries. The catch is that certain imported items are expensive. Electronics, cars, and Western products can cost more than back home due to import taxes. However, most daily necessities are locally produced and incredibly affordable. Long-term residents often find their costs decrease over time as they learn local systems, build relationships with vendors, and adapt their lifestyles to take advantage of local opportunities. Rather than trying to recreate Western lifestyles in Uganda, the bottom line, $600 per month in Uganda provides a lifestyle that costs $2,500 to $3,500 in most American cities, with better weather, friendlier people, and more interesting cultural experiences than you'll find in most budget-friendly Western locations. Transportation in Uganda is unlike anywhere else on Earth, and the boda system alone is worth experiencing just to understand how urban mobility can work. When you throw conventional traffic rules out the window, these motorcycle taxis are everywhere, and I mean everywhere. In Kampala, there are an estimated 100,000 bodas operating at any given time, creating a transportation network that's more efficient than anything you'll find in major Western cities. Here's how it works. You step outside anywhere in urban Uganda, and within 30 seconds, at least 3 boda drivers will approach asking if you need a ride. They wear numbered vests, know every street, shortcut, and back alley in the city, and can get you across Kampala faster than any car during traffic hours. The riding experience takes some adjustment, Ugandan boda drivers navigate through spaces that seem physically impossible. Between cars with inches to spare, down pedestrian paths, through market areas where you're ducking under hanging merchandise, they communicate with other drivers through hand signals and honking patterns that create an informal traffic control system. What looks like chaos actually follows unwritten rules that somehow keep everyone moving efficiently. Safety is obviously a concern, and smart riders wear helmets, though many drivers provide them, and avoid bodas. During heavy rain, when roads become slippery, accidents happen, but they're usually minor because speeds are relatively low in city traffic. Most expats quickly develop preferred drivers whose numbers they save in their phones. For longer distances, the Matatu system provides shared transportation that's cheap and comprehensive. These are typically vans or small buses that run fixed routes between towns and cities. They leave when full rather than on schedules, which means waiting times vary but costs stay incredibly low. A trip from Kampala to Jinja, about 80 kilometers, costs around $1 to $3 and takes 2 to 3 hours depending on traffic and stops. The country has been investing heavily in road infrastructure, and major highways between cities are generally good quality. However, rural roads can be challenging, especially during rainy seasons when dirt roads become muddy and difficult to navigate. This is where the bodas really shine. They can handle terrain that would stop cars completely. Public buses exist, but are less popular than matatus for intercity travel. Uganda has been working on a bus rapid transit system for Kampala, though implementation has been slow. Most locals prefer the flexibility and speed of bodas for city travel and matatus for longer trips. For those who want private transportation, cars are expensive due to import duties, but motorcycles are affordable and practical. A decent used motorcycle costs $1,000 to $2,000, and maintenance is cheap with mechanics available everywhere. Many expats buy motorcycles and learn to navigate Ugandan traffic themselves, though this requires adaptation to very different driving norms than most Western countries. The railway system exists, but is limited and unreliable for passenger service. Most freight still moves by truck, contributing to heavy traffic on major highways. However, there are ongoing projects to revive passenger rail service between major cities. Domestic flights connect Kampala to major tourist destinations and some regional cities, but they're expensive compared to ground transportation. Most visitors only fly domestically when going to remote areas like national parks, where road access is difficult. What's fascinating about transportation in Uganda is how informal systems work better than formal ones. The boda network operates without central coordination, but provides better coverage and faster service than most city bus systems. Drivers self-organize into stages, gathering points where they wait for customers, creating informal hubs throughout the city. The result is transportation freedom that's hard to appreciate until you experience it. Need to get somewhere quickly? Boda. Want to travel between cities cheaply? Matatu. Need to carry large items? Special cargo bodas or pickup truck taxis. The system adapts to whatever transportation need you have, usually for less money and faster service than formal transportation systems in developed countries. Uganda's tourism slogan is Pearl of Africa, and for once, marketing hyperbole doesn't do the reality justice. This country packs more natural diversity and adventure opportunities into its borders than most continents, yet it remains one of Africa's best-kept secrets for travelers who want incredible experiences without the crowds and inflated prices of more famous destinations. Let's start with the obvious one that everyone knows about: gorilla trekking. Uganda is home to nearly half of the world's remaining mountain gorillas, and the trekking experience here is often considered superior to Rwanda or Democratic Republic of Congo. When the impenetrable national park offers multiple gorilla families to visit, and the permits cost $700 compared to $1,500 in Rwanda. The trekking can be challenging. You're hiking through dense forest at altitude, but coming face to face with a silverback gorilla in its natural habitat is a life-changing experience that justifies the cost and effort. But gorillas are just the beginning. Murchison Falls National Park offers some of the best wildlife viewing in Africa without the Serengeti crowds. The park sits where the Nile River explodes through a narrow gorge, creating a waterfall so powerful you can hear it from miles away. Game drives here regularly produce sightings of lions, elephants, giraffes, hippos, and countless other species. The boat cruise to the base of the falls takes you through hippo and crocodile territory while offering incredible bird watching opportunities. Queen Elizabeth National Park is famous for tree climbing lions. Yes, lions that actually climb and rest in trees, which is unusual behavior found in only a few places worldwide. The park also features the Kazinga Channel, where boat safaris offer close encounters with elephants, buffalo, and massive hippo populations. For adventure junkies, Jinja is the adrenaline capital of East Africa. The source of the Nile River is here, and the rapids created as the Nile begins its journey to the Mediterranean provide world-class whitewater rafting. We're talking about grade 5 rapids that challenge even experienced rafters, but with options for beginners as well. Bungee jumping over the Nile, kayaking, jet skiing, and quad biking make Jinja a playground for adventure sports. Lake Victoria itself is worth extended exploration. It's the second largest freshwater lake in the world, creating its own ecosystem and weather patterns. Island hopping, fishing expeditions, and sunset cruises offer completely different experiences from the mountain and forest adventures elsewhere in the country. The Sisi Islands provide tropical beach experiences that most people don't expect from a landlocked country. Hiking opportunities are incredible and largely unexplored by international tourists. The Rwenzori Mountains, also called the Mountains of the Moon, offer multi-day treks through landscapes that range from tropical forests to alpine zones to actual glaciers near the peaks. These mountains are challenging enough for serious mountaineers, but accessible enough for fit hikers who want unique high-altitude experiences. For cultural tourism, traditional village visits provide authentic encounters with different tribal communities. The Batwa Pygmy people offer cultural experiences that include traditional hunting demonstrations, music, and storytelling. These visits, when organized ethically through community-based tourism initiatives, provide income for communities while offering visitors genuine cultural exchanges. Rather than perform tourist shows, Sipi Falls, near the Kenya border, offers incredible scenery with multiple waterfalls cascading down mountain cliffs. The area is perfect for hiking, rock climbing, and exploring coffee plantations where you can learn about coffee production from seed to cup. The views here rival anything. In more famous mountain destinations, Kibale National Park provides chimpanzee trekking that's often more reliable and intimate than gorilla trekking. Chimpanzees are more active and playful than gorillas, making for dynamic viewing experiences. The forest here also hosts 12 other primate species, making it one of the best places in Africa for primate diversity. What makes Uganda special for nature lovers is the accessibility of these experiences. Unlike some African countries where you need expensive safari packages and luxury accommodations, Uganda's attractions are accessible to budget travelers. You can camp in national parks, use local guides, and arrange activities independently rather than through expensive tour operators. The country's compact size means you can experience incredible diversity without spending weeks traveling between destinations. A 2-week trip can easily include mountain gorillas, whitewater rafting, wildlife safaris, cultural experiences, and mountain hiking, variety that would require visiting multiple countries elsewhere. Bird watching in Uganda is phenomenal, with over 1,000 species recorded in this relatively small country. The variety of ecosystems, from swamps to mountains to savannas to forests, creates habitats for birds found nowhere else in East Africa. Hot air balloon safaris over Queen Elizabeth National Park provide aerial views of wildlife in landscapes that rival the more famous balloon safaris in Kenya and Tanzania, but with smaller crowds and lower prices. The adventure opportunities here combine world-class experiences with affordability and accessibility that make Uganda perfect for travelers who want authentic African adventures without the luxury safari price tags or tourist crowds found in more famous destinations. Let's address the elephant in the room first: safety. Uganda's reputation internationally doesn't match the reality on the ground for most visitors and residents. The country is significantly safer than many popular tourist destinations, but like anywhere, safety depends on common sense, local knowledge, and understanding the specific risks and how to avoid them. Kampala is generally safe for foreigners during daylight hours, especially in central areas and established neighborhoods. Street crime exists, but is typically opportunistic, pickpocketing, phone snatching, and bag grabbing rather than violent robbery. The key is not displaying expensive items, avoiding isolated areas at night, and staying aware of your surroundings. Most expats report feeling safer walking around Kampala than they do in major American cities. Rural areas are often safer than urban areas, with lower crime rates and communities where everyone knows each other. However, some northern regions near the South Sudan border have occasional security issues related to cattle rustling and cross-border conflicts. The government and tourist organizations provide regular security updates for travelers. Traffic accidents are probably the biggest safety risk for most visitors. Ugandan driving standards are different from Western countries, and the boda culture, while efficient, involves risks that visitors need to understand. Wearing helmets, choosing experienced drivers, and avoiding rides during heavy rain significantly reduce risks. Healthcare presents a two-tier system that visitors need to understand. Public healthcare is available and very affordable, but quality varies significantly between urban and rural areas. Public hospitals in Kampala provide decent emergency care and basic services, but facilities may be crowded and under-resourced compared to Western standards. Private healthcare in Uganda is surprisingly good, especially in Kampala and other major towns. Private hospitals like Nakasero Hospital and International Hospital Kampala provide care that meets international standards with modern equipment and well-trained staff. Costs are reasonable by international standards. A private consultation runs $15 to $25, and even minor surgical procedures cost a fraction of what they would in Western countries. Prescription medications are widely available and affordable. Many drugs that require prescriptions in Western countries are available over the counter here. Though quality control can be inconsistent for some imported generics, most expats stick to established pharmacies and bring supplies of any critical medications from home. The biggest healthcare challenges are preventable diseases. Malaria is present throughout Uganda, so prophylaxis and prevention measures are essential. Yellow fever vaccination is required for entry. Water quality varies, so most residents drink bottled or filtered water. Food safety requires attention, especially for street food, though serious food poisoning is uncommon for people who use basic precautions. Mental health services are limited, which is important for long-term residents to consider. There are some private counselors and therapists in Kampala, but options are limited compared to Western countries. Education in Uganda reveals interesting contrast between public and private systems. Public education is free through primary school and affordable for secondary school, but quality varies dramatically. Rural schools often lack resources, while urban public schools can be quite good. Private education is affordable by international standards and often excellent. International schools in Kampala provide education comparable to private schools in Western countries for a fraction of the cost. Many expat families find they can afford private education. Here, that would be financially impossible back home. Higher education is growing rapidly. Makerere University is one of Africa's leading universities, and several other institutions provide quality degree programs. The focus on practical skills and entrepreneurship in Ugandan education creates graduates who are adaptable and resourceful. Adult education and literacy programs are widespread, reflecting the government's commitment to education as a development priority. English is widely spoken and taught, making Uganda accessible for English-speaking visitors and residents. For expat families, the combination of affordable private health care and education, along with reasonable safety conditions, makes Uganda attractive for long-term residents. The key is understanding local systems, building relationships with reliable healthcare providers and schools, and maintaining appropriate insurance coverage for major medical emergencies that might require evacuation to Kenya or Europe. Overall, Uganda presents manageable risks and decent services for visitors and residents who take time to understand local conditions and make informed decisions about healthcare, education, and personal safety. Getting into Uganda is refreshingly straightforward compared to many countries. U.S. citizens need a visa, but it is available online through the official e-visa system for $50. Processing typically takes 3 to 5 business days, and the visa is valid for 90 days with possible extensions. The East African tourist visa, $100, is worth considering if you plan to visit Kenya, Rwanda, or Tanzania as well, since it covers all 4 countries for 90 days. Yellow fever vaccination is mandatory, and they actually check certificates at the airport, so don't try to skip this requirement. Most other vaccinations are recommended but not required. The visa process is genuinely easier than many European countries, and airport immigration is typically quick and efficient. For longer stays, Uganda offers various permit options. The work permit process can be bureaucratic and slow, but it's manageable with patience or local assistance. Investment permits for those starting businesses are available, and the government is generally supportive of foreign investment that creates local employment. The expat community in Uganda is diverse and welcoming. You'll find aid workers, business people, retirees, digital nomads, and people who just fell in love with the country and stayed. The community is small enough that you'll quickly meet people, but large enough to provide social connections and practical support. Facebook groups and WhatsApp networks help newcomers connect with established expats who share practical advice about everything from finding apartments to navigating bureaucracy to identifying reliable service providers. The community is genuinely helpful rather than competitive, partly because Uganda doesn't attract the same type of sex tourists or party seekers that create problems in some expat destinations. Banking for expats is manageable. Major banks like Stanbic and Standard Chartered provide services to foreigners, though opening accounts requires patience and documentation. Mobile money systems like MTN Mobile Money are incredibly convenient and widely accepted, often more useful than traditional banking for daily transactions. Language barriers are minimal, since English is official and widely spoken. Learning some Luganda phrases helps with integration and shows respect for local culture, but it's not necessary for daily life in urban areas. The biggest adjustment for most expats is the pace of life and different approaches to time and planning. Ugandan time means things happen when they happen rather than precisely when scheduled. This can be frustrating initially, but becomes liberating once you adapt to more flexible approaches to time and deadlines. Internet connectivity is surprisingly good in urban areas, making remote work feasible for digital nomads. Power outages occur but are less frequent than many African countries, and backup power systems are common in better accommodations. Shopping for familiar products can be challenging and expensive. Most daily necessities are available locally, but specific Western brands or specialty items often require ordering from Kenya or importing personally. Many expats adapt their diets and lifestyles to take advantage of excellent local products, rather than trying to recreate Western lifestyles completely. The climate adjustment is generally positive. Consistent temperatures year-round, no winter depression, and manageable humidity levels. The main weather consideration is planning around rainy seasons for travel and outdoor activities. So here's the bottom line. Uganda offers an incredibly rich cultural experience. Adventure opportunities that rival anywhere in the world a cost of living. That makes Western salaries stretch impossibly far in a community of people who chose to build. Lives here rather than just passing through as tourists. If you're tired of overpriced mediocrity, tourist traps masquerading as cultural experiences, and places where your money barely covers basic living expenses, Uganda deserves serious consideration. Whether you're looking for a gap year adventure, a digital nomad base, an early retirement destination, or just want to experience a place that hasn't been discovered and ruined by mass tourism yet, Uganda offers opportunities that are becoming rare in today's world. Comment below if you're seriously considering making the move, or if you want more specific information about any aspects of living in Uganda, and if this opened your eyes to possibilities you hadn't considered before. Share it with someone else who might be ready for a completely different kind of life adventure.